Josh Raven here with the Daily Dot at IEM Katowice, joined by support turned caster slash analyst Krepo, doing some analysis here at IEM Katowice, and that's where I want to start. We'll bring it back to yesterday though, Group A. Did that go in any way like you thought it would? TSM obviously getting through over Ever and Origen dropping out.
Yeah, I mean the initial surprise was that Ever actually won that game, but I think the tournament kind of played out the way everybody expected. TSM got a lead against Ever, yeah, they threw it. Which kind of confirmed that TSM's macro was a little shaky. RNG came out on top of that group, seed 1. So I think the end result standings came out just like everybody expected. The way to get to those standings had a little bit of turns and questionable gameplay. Both TSM, Ever, and Origen kind of looked weak. So the group really had only one winner.
And what do you think the problems were for Origen? Because obviously they're not having a great season in Europe, but some people would have thought that maybe they could still, beat TSM and beat Ever into qualifying out of there.
They just look lost right now. As cliche and as memey as it sounds, like they need somebody to really get everybody back on the same page, like a coach or an in-game leader, somebody to step up, because they're failing at crucial moments of the game. They pretty much only standard they have or constant is like their bot lane, Sven and Mithy, and even Sven has been showing like some faults once in a while, and that is not something we've seen used to him. Their mid game is shaky, it's slow. Soaz is a complete coin flip that kind of lands on tails more than heads these days. Tails being the losing lane, falling behind. So they're just not a top team anymore, and it's really sad to see how far they've regressed kind of from being a semi-finalist at Worlds, essentially having the same roster except Peke. Falling this far down is kind of disappointing for Origen.
Obviously the debate about Origen and whether they should get a coach is one that's still going on. In your mind, what do you think they need from a coach? Do they need like a team leader or like a team mum or something like that, or would they do better with an analyst essentially just telling them what to play?
I think it depends on the person. Like it's so easy to say like they need X or Y in a person, but it's so hard to define. Look at the good coaches we have, like we only have a handful and we don't even know exactly what they bring to the table, so we can't really judge it from the outside. I do think that Origen have a bad case of they don't know what they need. They think they know what they want, and that is something we saw a lot in Season 2 in a lot of teams, including like my own. It's like, yeah, I don't need that. No, we're fine on our own. Because we won when we didn't have it, but it's not the case, Just because you get ahead while not having it doesn't necessarily quantify that you should be better off without it. And I think Origen definitely could do from somebody with more structure, more overview, getting the guys out of bed in time, like little things, just improving like the seriousness that they approach the game with, because it's fine if you slack and you have this very laissez-faire approach to the game and you still win. As long as you're winning, I won't fault you, but if you start losing, maybe it is worth looking at some of these trends.
Okay. Well, we'll move on over to Group B. I know it's going to be tricky because it is literally happening as we speak. I believe as it stands, CLG are 1 up against Fnatic. But we did see the Korean and Chinese team face off, so I'm going to test your knowledge on the OG, and I hope you've been watching. SKT came in, not performing overly well in the LCK, but they did manage to beat out QG. Was that a surprise, or was that kind of expected for you? I
mean, it was expected that SKT would kind of win over QG, and then in their initial match against CLG, it was expected that they would win. It was just the way in which they would win, and by what landslide would kind of confirm like some suspicions. Has SKT improved, or are they good on land? How good is Blank versus Bengi? Blank played well, fit in pretty much seamlessly in the lineup overall, and then some very loud girls shouting here apparently backstage.
I'm sure you get that all the time.
Yeah, totally used to that. But no, I think SKT performed slightly above expectations. They seem very well controlled. Wolf played an absolute monster of a game on Bard. Definitely worth rewatching if you haven't seen it at home. Go watch that game. Really, really beautiful game. And they look like the favorites for the tournament because they're calm, collected. They seem fixed their drafting issues a little bit. They were projected to win Group A though. It's kind of the battle for second place. That'll be interesting. CLG now 1 game up on Fnatic. Again, projected to beat Fnatic. It's the QG-CLG match in the loser bracket final that kind of everybody's waiting for. My money is on QG, on CLG stylistically because the split push could beat QG's very teamfight oriented playstyle. But we'll have to see how it plays out. Hopefully I'm not wrong by the time this is released.
Well, yeah, hopefully not. But anyway, we'll move away from IEM because obviously predictions are predictions, anything can happen. But we will head over to the European LCS because that is still happening. We're on break right now, but we're coming into the last crucial weeks and there's still so much to be decided. First off, I want to hit you with the most recent news that happened, and that's Giants making their roster changes. Huge roster changes, changing 3 of their players in the last few weeks of the season in a desperate bid to kind of escape relegation. What do you think of those changes? Do you think it's enough?
I don't think they will ever escape relegations. Don't even feel those changes are to escape relegations. I think it's just like literally 2 weeks training time with the roster to then not lose relegations, because there's some tough games coming out of Challenger. I'm looking at Millennium, looking very strong overall. So that's kind of what Giants want to avoid. I think the changes were necessary. Giants were not performing well. There was no growth in the team. They were even kind of slipping into even worse habits. So changes was necessary, as hard as it sucks. Like if you're continuously a bottom tier team in the LCS, it is better to risk change. The timing, week 7 of the LCS, leaves something to be desired, but yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
Well, we'll see how it goes for them, but obviously at the top of the table is where the real kind of battle stands right now between H2K Vitality and I'm missing one more.
Yeah, G2 Esports.
G2, that's the one. And I think they're still tied on exactly the same win-loss ratio coming in. Obviously H2K got their good news with Forgiven coming back into the league. Yeah. So who do you think is going to be able to take that number 1 spot? And I think number 2 as well. They want to skip the first round of playoffs.
Yeah, I think in terms of growth, I don't know the exact strength of schedule of what they have left out of my head, but in terms of actual level of the teams, who deserves 1, 2, and 3, I would say Vitality actually deserves first. They seem like the stronger team overall, and they're still kind of improving. H2K, they got Ryu back, and everybody thought everything would be fixed all of a sudden, but they're showing some mistakes. They're not playing that well, but there's still a big gap between those two in terms of like macro approach to the game, and then G2 Esports. G2 Esports are still lost in the mid game. They're like Baron vision, playing around the Baron overall has been pretty lackluster the last few weeks. They can snowball, but they've shown that if they don't really snowball from their pure aggression style, that they kind of start suffering. So for G2 Esports, that's the goal, to fix in playoffs in the run towards maybe like a top 3 finish.
And how important do you think it was for H2K to get back Forgiven? Because some people were saying, it's not super essential for them because of the way they play their lane. Obviously you would know a lot about that, so how important is it to have Forgiven playing for them?
I think Pr0lly, as a coach, can make any player fit in H2K and play the style that H2K wants to play. However, I think it would be a very big mental blow if they would lose him. I mean, they lost Ryu for a while. Due to circumstances, he kind of came back. If they would lose him right now immediately too, that would just be too much. I think that would just put the entire team on tilt. So that's something we have to take into regard. Also, who would you get? There's so few AD carries available. The only thing that springs to my mind who's somewhat free is Altec, but I believe he's still under contract. He just kind of benched himself allegedly. So other than that, unless they can magically free up Freeze with a deal with Monte Cristo, I don't think they could even find the replacement. So I'm really happy Forgiven's back. Fantastic player, really motivated, really driven, and it would be such a shame to lose him in the LCS.